Hey you guys, it's Farmer Corinna here, and today I am coming at you from behind my screen on my computer, and I'm going to be teaching you guys all about the importance of email headlines and why are email headlines so important. So I'm going to start first with just the basic goal of an email headline, and it is to get someone to open the email. That's all it's supposed to do. So a lot of times what people make the mistake of doing is they write the email headline and they put all the information in it that's designed to get them to try and buy the product or deliver the information that's in the email. That is not the job of the headline. The headline's job is just to get someone to click it so they'll open it. And then the copy inside the email has a different purpose, sometimes to cause the conversion, right? To cause them to do the call to action. So I want to make sure we start there, really rethink how you're using your email headlines. Are you trying to cram too much information into them when the goal is really just to get them to click the email and open it so that you can then deliver the important information on the inside. So that's probably the very first place we need to start to remember the goal of the headline in an email. All right. So now we're going to talk about some different tricks that you can use to increase your email open rate. So I know many of you have already kind of complained and said, oh, Corinna, you're telling me how important it is to write emails, but nobody is opening my emails. And there are lots of different reasons why that may not be happening. There is definitely something called email fatigue, where we're all getting too many emails in our box. Sometimes your emails are not written very well, so they have learned not to open them because they're boring. Or sometimes you might use clickbait, where you tease them with this headline and then they open it. It has nothing to do with what they thought the headline was describing. And people are just frankly really busy. They show up on Monday morning, they open up their email box at work, and there's just tons and tons of them sitting in there. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times I just quickly scan the headlines and I click. I don't even open them. If the headline isn't appealing to me, I just get rid of it. Okay, so we are battling all that kind of nonsense. And so we have to kind of be aware of that and then also be strategic with that information, because there are some things we can do to make it more likely for someone to actually open your email. I do want to say that you should not make it your goal. It is unrealistic to expect your customers to always open your email. Okay, the average email open rate nationally is like between 20 and 25%, depending on where you look. So if you are, anywhere above that, you're doing better than normal. Obviously, the goal is to try and get it as high as possible, but I have never had a 100% email open rate. Mine tend to hover around 60 to 65% for my core audience who know me really well. But you're never going to get your email open rates at 100%, and that probably shouldn't be the goal, but we can try to increase that open rate. All right, so that's what this training is all about, to try and get that a little higher. For me, email is kind of the primary way that I communicate with my audience, so I try to explain that on the front end a lot, and I tell them, hey, if you miss out on opportunities, it's because you're not opening your emails. I can talk to you on Facebook and on social media, but if you're not checking your email, there's no way that I can call every single one of you. So really trying to set that expectation early on in some of those drip campaigns at the beginning when they first sign up is also important. Okay, so number one, what's our first tip? Timing is everything. I already put a post in our Facebook group about this, but when you send the email, it turns out, is quite important. So based on the research out there are certain times of day that you should avoid sending your email. And this is because of something called the inbox purge. As we just said, we all go to our emails at certain times of the day, usually in the morning when we first wake up or when we first arrive at work. And then kind of right before we leave work, we check one more time, and then maybe in the evening. So we have certain times, or at lunchtime, that we tend to check. And so if there's a whole bunch of stuff that is piled up, we may just kind of click through and get rid of them really fast. So you want to try and get your emails to arrive in those other windows of time. So here's what the research has indicated, that 8:30 to 10 a.m. is a great time to deliver emails. 2 to 3:30 p.m. So right before they're going to check their email and before they leave work. 8 p.m. to midnight. I find that really hard to believe, but I guess that's kind of the time of, before they go to bed, people check it one more time. So those are the times that you want to try and tell your email service provider to send those emails. You can tell when you broadcast an email out, you can actually schedule it for a very specific time of day in most of your email service providers. So write those dates down. I actually have that written on a piece of paper that's on my corkboard here next to my computer. And I look at that as a reminder because I can't remember those dates in my head. And I'll schedule it as I'm putting those emails together. The second thing is that I want you to think about, this is the second tip, to test the day of the week that you send. And so I haven't really figured out what day is best for me because I haven't actually tested this yet. But this was from a comment from my friend Michelle on the Facebook group. She said, I just started. I took this advice. I put it at a different time of day and I got more opens. She's like, I always send it on Mondays. And that got me thinking. I'm like, you know what? Mondays is when I always typically send my weekly email out as well. But maybe that isn't the best day of the week because people might have a ton of emails that have accumulated in their box over the weekend. And so maybe some of them are purging them as a result of that. I'm not sure. It's something to test. So you might want to play around with sending your weekly email at a different time of the week and see if you have higher open rates. You may not have that option if there's an email has to go out on Monday because you've got things going into the store and you need them to tell you by a certain day if they're going to order. Like Monday might be your only option, but in general, I like to avoid sending things on the weekends if I can. But again, you may not always have that option. Number 3, it's important when you send, first of all, it's important to send a weekly email to your list. That's kind of the rule of thumb, is 1 email per week to your list. And the reason you want to do that is because they need to be reminded that you exist. They're not always going to open them, right? Like we are clicking and deleting a lot of these emails. I do it too, but I see the same people showing up in my inbox all the time. I see, copy hackers, and I see Don Miller from StoryBrand, and I see Amy Porterfield, and maybe like once every 10 times, something in the subject line catches my attention, and I click it and I open it. So just being on a person's radar is important. That's why the weekly email is important to send. It keeps you in their mind's view. If they decide to eventually unsubscribe, oh well, not the end of the world, but you stay on their radar. When I set up my drip campaigns, I actually tell ConvertKit never to send an email on a Monday. And the reason that I do that is because I know that I'm going to send a weekly email on Mondays. So I don't want somebody who's already in a campaign to get a second email. That's like too many emails on one day. So in your email service provider, you can usually go on in and just tell the drip campaign, hey, never send this email on a Monday. Okay, so that's just something to think about. Okay, let's go back to our headlines. So this is my Gmail account that you're looking at. And one of the things that I want you to notice is that headlines that are short do really well. 6 to 10 words is kind of the optimum that you want to aim for. 25 characters is the sweet spot. And remember that most emails are actually opened on a tablet or on a cell phone. So there's not a lot of real estate that you have to work with. Now you're looking at my desktop right now, so there's a lot more space. I'm going to see a lot more words than I would if I were just on my phone. So those very first letters, those very first words matter, because as you and I know, when we look and we scan those headlines, we often determine whether we're going to open them or not based on the headline. So those first 3 to 5 words are really, really important. Keep that in mind. Even as you just look at some of the headlines that are here in my inbox right now, you can tell that there are some that just aren't as interesting, right? Like this one from Northwestern Mutual, e-delivery of statement available online. Like that's just not really exciting. I don't think I want to open that right now. All right, so keep it short and pay attention to those first 3 to 5 words. If you're going to use numbers in your headline, numbers work really well, especially if they're odd numbers. Also, if they're specific numbers. I have some examples of that, I think, in some emails that I'm going to show you later. But for instance, if you have a retention rate that's really high, put that down. Like 78% retention is what I have. And I have that in one of my headlines for my CSA sell sequence. If you know you only have a certain number of shares left and you're getting close to the end, say 17 shares left. That sounds better than rounding up to 20, right? People can tell that you're rounding. So always use specific numbers or odd numbers if you're going to use numbers at all. Okay, another thing I want to show you here is that you can see real starkly in my inbox is the power of using the second subject line. Okay, there is a second subject line that you can leverage to get people to open. You've got about another 6 to 10 words after that initial headline that are going to tell subscribers why they should open this email, and you can see them right here. So again, I'm going to pick on Northwestern Mutual here, but the headline itself is e-delivery of statement available online. And then there's a dash. And then these next few words are the first 4 words of the actual email copy. Log into your account. Okay. Here's another bad one from New York Times. Cooking, what to cook tonight. That's the actual headline that was put into the headline field in the email. The next one says view in browser, add NYTD. That doesn't excite me. That doesn't really tell me what's going to, be in here if it's good content. So here's another example from somebody who's actually wrote me back, right? Kitchen remodel. So I know they're talking to me about that email I sent. Hi, Corinne. We did a 5-month remodel, and I can tell right here that this is actually someone writing me an email in first person voice, right? Oh, I'm going to click on that and open that up. So paying attention, these first, there are some words that are going to appear in that headline, especially if the headline is really short. You've got a lot of real estate here that you can use to kind of entice them. So what does this mean? This means that the very first sentence of your email matters. And if you have a short enough headline, you can then use that first sentence to draw curiosity and get someone to open it. Okay, so really think about that as you are exploring different headline options. All right, call them by name. Okay, so if you go to ConvertKit or your particular email service provider, when you go into the builder, you can actually put in some code in the email subject field here that will allow you to personalize the email. Here's the deal. If you actually like put their name into the email headline, apparently it increases the open rate by up to 23%. Okay, so I have experimented with this a little bit. I have found that it does help. And the way that you do it is by putting in some code. And in my case, I think it probably depends on your email service provider, but in my case, it's this code right here that I'm highlighting. If I take that, copy it, and stick it right here into the subject line, it will automatically populate. When the person gets it, it'll have their name in there and then, the message behind it. So you can use that to your advantage, and it makes the person feel like they're getting a personal email. So think about doing that as well. My next tip is to be provocative, to be controversial, to be relevant when you're actually writing the email. If you write boring emails, people are going to be trained not to open them. So always, when you sit down to write your weekly email, don't just write something to write something. Think of something that's actually going to add value to them. Give them a tip, give them a hack. Tell them about some behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on your farm. Share a struggle that you're dealing with or an important decision that you're making. For instance, we are renovating our kitchen starting this weekend, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can get any tips from my customers. Maybe they have some suggestions for how I can prepare, because I am nervous. I've never done this before, and I know a lot of them have. And I thought maybe they have some words of wisdom to warn me before I get started. And I sent out that email, and I got a ton of responses. And people didn't just send like 2 sentences. I got paragraphs and paragraphs of advice and pictures of how they had done their kitchens. And oh my gosh. So I really hit a nerve with some of these people. So just kind of be aware that the content of your email obviously matters. And the more you can kind of share relevant or provocative or interesting information, you're training your customers to want to open those emails, and your open rate will go up. Okay. And just kind of a warning, like a caution, don't be clickbaity about your headlines. You want to be careful not to make some kind of a promise that gets them to open it, and then the inside of your email has really nothing to do with the headline. And I have been guilty of this early on when I began. I think I used that a little bit, and I think I've gotten a lot better. So just know that that's part of the learning curve, but you'll soon figure out what causes people to want to open your emails. Test different kinds of email headlines, and in a minute I'm going to kind of show you what the 4 different types of headlines are. They kind of fall into 4 different categories. And don't just stick to one. You want to use a lot of different kinds, because you want to just change it up. Otherwise, things tend to get stale. And then finally, I also keep a headline swipe file, kind of like a cheat sheet, and it's 3 pages. It's headlines from the digital marketing space, because I study that. And I've gotten that from a resource called Digital Marketer. And so I have that, again, on my corkboard here, and it's just kind of some formulaic templates for headlines. Obviously, they're more for the digital marketer space, but they are really good formulas and templates, and I tend to stare at them, and it gives me an idea for, oh, that would be a good one. How can I modify that for my farm? So that's one of the things I'm going to give you as part of this training. I'm actually going to allow you to download that particular headline swipe file that I have in my office. And then I want you to kind of cut and paste that, put it into your own headline swipe file document, put it in a Google Doc. And then as you find other headlines from other places that you like, just kind of throw those in there. Or maybe you like some of the headlines that I've used in the email campaigns that I've sent as some of my freebies. Or, as you're getting emails from me every week, if you're in my email system, pay attention to the headlines I'm using and cut and paste those and stick them in there, because I do think that's really helpful to have kind of a place to go and look at some formulas. Okay, the next thing is also kind of big, the from name. So pay attention to your from name. Let me show you again. The from name is whatever you see appearing here when you open up an email, let's say in Gmail. So there's Norton's from name is Norton, and my alma mater college, Williams College, whoever is writing me from there, her from name is Laura Day 2004. And Northwestern Mutual's account, they clearly just have someone called Northwestern Mutual. So I may be more likely to open this email from Northwestern Mutual if it had a personal name of my sales rep that I actually knew. So the way that you can change your from name is in Gmail is that you would click on this settings button on this little gear, and you're going to go down to settings, and it's going to open up this little window. You're going to click on accounts and imports right up here. And then right here under the send mail as section, this is where you can change. So when you get emails from my customers, get emails from me, at least through my Gmail account, it's going to say Kurt and Corinna from SL Farms. And it used to just say Shared Legacy Farms, but I thought, what if it said Farmer Kurt? What if it said Corinna? And I kind of experimented with lots of different versions, and I just felt like in the end that this one was the best one. It used to just say my name, and I'm like, no, I think people would want to see the actual farmer's name in there too. So I had Kurt and Corinna, and then I just stuck in our short abbreviated name, SL Farms. The way that you can change this, you would click on Edit Info, a box comes in here, and then right in this white field is where you're going to select that and change it, and then hit Save New Changes. So that's, at least in Gmail, how you can change that from name. And I think that could really help your open rates as well. If someone shows up and opens up their email and they see all these different names, if it has a personal name, they're probably more likely to open it. So just be thinking about that. All right, so let's talk about the 4 different kinds of headlines. They break down into this. There's the blind or curiosity headline that causes a person to be curious. There's the direct or benefit-driven headline, proof or results headline, and a scarcity headline. So let's talk about some examples just that I've written down here on my notes. So the curiosity headline, I use this one a lot. Here's some examples of ones that I just thought of when I was sitting here. 3 ways Farmer Kurt likes to eat his kohlrabi. Okay, now if you saw that as a headline, you might go, I wonder what they are. And it causes the person to be curious and they'll click on it. Those kinds of headlines actually do really well for me if I kind of try to get people to think about, what Farmer Kurt likes to eat. I think I did one like Kurt's favorite way to eat kohlrabi, ... The ... goes, kind of encourages that curiosity to form. How I got my kids to eat fennel. Okay, again, well, I want to know how to get people to eat fennel. My kids don't want to eat fennel either. So again, that's a type of headline that causes curiosity. Here's another one within my CSA sequence. How to tell if CSA is right for you. The 6 questions you absolutely must ask. Wow, I want to know what those are. Aren't you curious? Okay, so a lot of my emails tend to be curiosity driven because I just want people to go, I want to open that to find out the answer. Another example of a type of email headline is a direct headline or benefit driven. Okay, so a direct or benefit driven headline, the goal is to spell out the benefits of the product. They speak to the desired end result of the customer, or they're just really, boom, right in front of you. So here's some examples. Grab my latest free veggie ebook. So when I was creating a new veggie ebook every week last year for my customers, they were waiting for the next one, right? So I could write an email headline like that said, grab my latest free veggie ebook for broccoli or whatever it was. So that's a real direct benefit. Here's what you get. It's just right out there. Get your picky eaters to eat more vegetables. That is a direct call to action, a direct benefit that you're going to get when you open this email. I'm going to tell you the answer to that. So I use direct or benefit-driven headlines when I want to give away something in the actual email copy itself. Here's another one that's real like in your face. Details for the 2018 CSA Veggie Box membership. Pricing details, okay? So someone knows very directly when I click on this, I'm going to get facts about how things are priced, okay? The third kind of headline category for emails is proof or results. And this is where you might use like case studies or testimonials in your sales sequence, for instance. So maybe it says something like case study, how one CSA rookie's kids are now eating more vegetables. And then in the copy itself of the email, you share a story of a particular CSA rookie that you know about that has told you this. Another example, how CSA masters decide what to eat every day. Okay, that's sort of a case study testimonial. And then on the inside, you have one of your CSA masters that you've done in your interviews who has told you how they decide to do that. And you share that in an email. Why a CSA's retention rate matters. So that's kind of speaking to proof, right? You have some social proof. If 78% of my people renewed, that's something that would be really powerful to me. So putting that kind of information in a headline, showing that you have proof of results, could be really powerful. The fourth one is really, really powerful, and I use it a lot, especially towards the end of my sales pitches and my email drip campaigns, and it's the scarcity category. A scarcity headline is really trying to highlight the urgency, the fact that time is running out, that the offer is going away. And so people read the headline and they immediately fear, there's that fear of missing out when they read the headline. So some examples would be last chance to become a VIP member. That might be your headline. Or why you must sign up tomorrow if you want an egg share. I think that was one of my headlines, something to that effect. Because I knew that I only had 100 egg shares, I wanted to make sure you guys with egg shares have to open this email. 20% off sale ends at midnight. Or CSA bonus disappearing tomorrow. Things like that are going to create scarcity. The last thing I'm going to do before I leave you is I want us to just take a look at some of the broadcast emails that we've sent out from our farm, just to kind of, again, show you some examples and show you what the open rates have been. So here's one. Ouch, watch out for falling produce. Announcing our January giveaway contest. This was sent to my CSA members. You can see that it got a really high open rate of 62%. And this was announcing a contest. So they see this word contest and they're thinking, oh, I want to know more about that. Corinna's going to give me something for free. Here's another one that had a pretty good open rate. Jairo's one of our helpers, and he had roof damage down south at his home in Florida, and so we raised about $6,000 to help him build a new roof. And so I wanted to share with people where they could find pictures of the finished product. So Jairo's raised his roof, where to find pictures, ... This is a curiosity-driven email. People wanted to see these pictures, so you can see they actually opened this up to see them. This is a headline that was sent out to you guys, to my farmer, my digital farmer audience, and it did really, really well. If I could do one thing over again in my business, it would be ... Gosh, wouldn't you want to know that? If you are really interested in learning what I have to say about marketing, this is going to be a really intriguing question, and you can see it got a really good open rate as well. So there's a couple more that I wanted to show here. Your ability to sell your CSA depends on whether you have this. Are you curious? Well, apparently you were, because this was almost a 70% open rate. And then, of course, down here, the big one, the Thanksgiving share recipes inside. Boom, just direct, benefit-driven kind of headline. Nothing fancy. I'm telling them what's going to be in here, and you can see it was sent to 87 people who were getting the Thanksgiving share. Look at that, an 83.9% open rate. So the majority of people actually clicked on that and downloaded it. So this is the power of headlines when you have an email service provider too that can provide you with data like this to let you know how they're actually doing, how the open rates, the click rates, how many people are clicking, how many people are unsubscribing. I like to go and look at this page a lot because it helps me get better at writing my headlines, because I can see how they're performing, which ones are doing really well, and I pay attention to that kind of stuff. It helps me make better headlines in the future. All right, so good luck and practice, test. Try a lot of different things. Remember, the headline is so important. It is the thing that makes a person decide whether they're going to open your email or not. I spend a lot of time crafting my headlines, and I think it's one of the reasons why we get such high open rates. All right, I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to download that freebie of the email headline swipe file and print it out, put it on your desk, and use it to help you write really great headlines. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.